Serious. Redditors who have died temporarily nearly died. Did your life flash before your eyes? If not, what did happen? From my grandfather. He has heart issues and had an internal defibrillator fitted to help his heart beat normally. To test it they stopped his heart while he was awake, but he kept talking to the doctors about the weather and normal old man stuff. When his heart restarted he felt a little shock and asked what was that. I was enjoying myself. The doctor replied, welcome back to life. The doctor told him afterwards that he should have just stopped being awake and fallen unconscious, and thus was the only time anything like this had ever happened to one of his patients. Stubborn old man. My heart stopped when I was in the air for 34 seconds. Not really a life flash but a very calming feeling of as I describe it. What was I even worried about? Everything is going to be fine. There was absolutely nothing. No light. No memories. Nothing. It was like I didn't exist for about an hour or so. I didn't experience the passing of time either, so the entire time I was dead seemed like an instant. It was sort of like teleporting into the future. I bled to death after a car accident. I went somewhere. I can't say for sure if it was real or just a weird chemical trip in my brain, but the best way I can describe it was like being in a hallway made out of space. It was beautiful and incredibly peaceful. I saw flecks of memories passing by me but I wasn't focused on them. Then a woman's voice that felt like it was everywhere told me I could wake up and suddenly I was alive again. I had my heart stopped at the hospital because my heart was going 150 BPM for hours. I even had the readout printed out of me flatlining. I had a heart condition and was on acid. My life did not flash before my eyes. It felt like a black cloud spreading through my body, the heart-stopping injection. Which makes no sense. I should note I have over 4 years drug and alcohol free now. But when it was over the doctor was walking out of the room, turned to me and said better living through chemistry. How crazy experience, would not recommend. I am security guard and couple years ago guy attacked me in the parking garage and stabbed me. When I was bleeding and losing consciousness I didn't really saw memories, it was more like memory with better outcome. Sorry about my bad English. Not my first language. I had a near-death overdose experience at a young age. I remember a black presence came to me, and I knew it was my death. I felt very strongly that it was not my time to go, that I had so much more to do. I nearly drowned in a swimming pool when I was 9 years old, at a hotel, when my family were on a holiday. I remembered it like it was yesterday. At that moment, my legs and arms locked up, my lungs felt like stone, and then I slipped out of consciousness for I'm not sure how long. I woke up to the lifeguard pumping my chest. During the time I was unconscious, I was floating. Probably because I was in water, in space filled with stars. I tried to swim over to one of the stars and found out they were fragments of my memories, voices, noises, smell, faces, places, all jumbled together. But a big part of those fragments were my mom, my dad, and my 2 younger brothers and a cousin who was also my best friend. It wasn't like a memory or anything. To put it into words, it was more like a soup of everything I've ever seen, heard, tasted, smell, and feel all there. Then I woke up. I've never seen that vision again, but I still remember it clear as day. I tried to kill myself, and while I'm not 100% sure I died, it's hard to verify since I wasn't all there and no one will give me details. All I remember was just being. There was nothing, no light, no forms, no people and no voice. It was sort of like a state of just understanding and peace. Worst part of it is that I miss that feeling. I have a mental disorder and I'm sure that's at least 85% of what's talking when I say that, but it was just such a relief to be in that state. I was told I was in the air for days and no one was sure if I was going to wake up at all, but it lasted for what seemed to be a blink of an eye but also felt like eternity while I was in it. And X200B. There was no flash of my life. Nothing but darkness. If you've experienced true dark, as in being in a cave with no visible light, that's the best way that I can describe it. Like that and a deep sigh after you learn that something horrible didn't happen. That moment when you've sighed out a full breath and there's that single moment of satisfaction. That's what I felt and saw when it happened. I floated out of my body and looked down on the room. Saw the medical staff trying to revive me and just felt awesome. In a very detached way. I thought, well, my family's gonna be pissed. but physically I just felt like I was floating and very, very content. I remember being excited to see what was next. Then I was revived. I no longer fear death. It was a great experience. I just want to know where my people were. I thought they were supposed to come welcome my ass, or something. Sorry on mobile etc. My body was completely infected with sepsis. The emergency room staff had placed me in a tub of ice to try and help fight the fever. I had 2 IVs pumping. I don't know what all into me. Next thing I knew, everything was dark. I could feel other people around me. I felt so happy and light. I was free. There was no fear. Somewhere I could hear my best friend yelling at me, "BCH don't die. I am not racing your children." My mind snapped too. Immediately I knew I had to go back. There was no way I was going to let her near my children. Woke up right afterwards and was amazed at how heavy my limbs felt. I have no fear of dying now. I have raised my kids, and she is no longer my best friend. I overdosed when I was 14. I gradually transitioned from life into a state of peace and bliss. I felt something, the presence of something wonderful but heavy. Heavy and old and not meant for us mortal folks. I felt that I was on the very brink of entering this place, of finding something great, but I was always just on the edge. It was so long, and so tiring, and I was just waiting to experience this thing. Next thing I know I'm back to the real world, and I never had the chance to experience the greatness. I had a grand mal seizure. From what I was told I stopped breathing. Got CPR, came to thinking I was just sleeping, no recollection of it. I came back discombobulated, confused, thrashing around with the EMTs. I got to the hospital and was placed on a crash cart. Had multiple EKGs. I honestly thought I was going to die, but to be honest nothing flashed before my eyes. When you die, it's like that period of time between when you fall asleep and when you wake up that you can't remember when you wake up. Especially if you don't remember even having a dream. That is death. You fall asleep. You just never wake up. I had a friend who tried to end her life. She told me when they brought her back to life it felt like electric lava running through her veins. She didn't see any light. No life flashing before her eyes. It was nothingness. The way I explained it above is the best way I can explain it. I had a conversation about something similar recently. So while this is not an easy story, it's one that I feel somewhat fine with sharing. When I was in my sophomore year of high school, I failed 5/7 of my classes, and felt as if nothing in my life would go right. I climbed onto a roof of the school, about 3 stories up, and jumped. I landed on my front, but at an angle. I bled out there, and for the most part, felt relief, as if a huge weight was lifted from my shoulders all of a sudden. I woke up a few more times, and really just recall small bits of what happened. There was an ambulance, and I blacked out again, and then I was in the ambulance. It felt like a dream, and I kind of just floated along. And X200B. I made a nearly full recovery, although my kidney still has some issues from being crushed bones piercing it. Overall, just really floaty.